How you doing out there? How you doing? Frankie Russo pre-show number 132. I left my board home. Yeah, because I was working on some science, some physics, and I put it into another room. So I don't have my board with me. I love my board. But anyway, let's help America's team help the men and women of the United States Armed Forces fight post-traumatic stress disorder. Send me an email, frusso, Frusso 14 at AOL.com. If you can help. The fundraising is slow right now, but we ain't stopping because we're going to do this. We're going to help the men and women of the United States Armed Forces fight post-traumatic stress disorder. That's what I'm talking about. And I usually come with my board, but I left it home, unfortunately. Sorry. But anyway, so I want to start with breaking. This is a Breitbart exclusive. Dawn of the Trumpocrats, and I talked about it last week, and I'm going to talk about it every week. Trumpocrats are Americans first. We come from every party or no party at all, every walk of life, all across this country. We are Democrats, Independents, Republicans. We are teachers, technicians, cops, coal miners. We are workers. We are your neighbors. We support Donald Trump because we believe he will make this country strong again. He will make this country great again. Donald Trump will take on the status quo, a political establishment, and take down Hillary Clinton. Crooked Hillary. So we go to Trumpocrats PAC, PAC.com. We got to go there. Now we got the early voting. I just want to get this information in. Early voting, I want to see if I can get some more. Because right now I got early voting. What I got for early voting right now is September 9th. Next Friday, election officials begin mailing ballots September 9th to any registered voter, in North Carolina who formally requested one. So that's what's happening there. Presidential election, early. Let me see if I get something a little more. Let's see, early voting, presidential. Oh, nothing there. I'll just use this then. All right, so we got that, and then Georgia election officials begin mailing absentee ballots September 20th, followed by Wisconsin September 22nd, Virginia on September 23rd, Michigan on September 24th, Iowa begins mailing ballots September 29th, and in addition, North Carolina early in-person vote is permitted in some form by 35 other states. Among battleground states, Iowa opens early voting September 29th, Ohio October 12th, Georgia October 17th, and that's what I got for you right now. All right, so let's look at some data, and then we'll take it from there. Frankie Russo Show. Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff ousted in impeachment vote. That's crazy, right? So she's out. Unfortunately, I don't know all the particulars on why this happened. According to the Washington Post, she was stripped of her office in the culmination of a political crisis that has left Latin America's largest nation adrift, with an economy in deep recession and a public sharply divided over the country's future. Rousseff was impeached on charges having to do with violating budget laws, but she was swept up in a tide of revulsion against Brazil's political class as the once flourishing economy contracted and political parties were tarred by a massive corruption scandal. Okay. My only concern is the unilateral. I have no problem with people speaking for what they believe in. but we don't want to unilaterally just start undoing democratic acts. It's you know, if it's blatant corruption like Hillary Clinton, that's something else. But I just want to look at Venezuela because I know Venezuela has got some stuff going on that we have to watch too. Venezuela, Venezuela, Venezuela. Here it is. Venezuela. Right. They had that, and there's another one. Venezuela. Food shortage. Now, in Venezuela, this is like Venezuela food shortage. Family liquidates savings to stockpile food in Venezuela. So this is in South America as well. There's a couple. They're just using an example in San Cristobal in Venezuela. There's people that were. They have this sleek apartment. They have a very nice apartment in Venezuela. Fridge covered with magnets, these souvenir magnets from vacations abroad. Closets full of name brand clothing, but they feel hunger drawing close. So when the Venezuelan government opened the long closed border with Colombia this weekend, the couple decided to drain what remained of the savings they put away before the country spun into economic crisis and spilled up on food. They left their two sons with relatives and joined more than 100,000 other Venezuelans trudging across the Colombian officials and are calling a humanitarian corridor to buy as many basic goods as possible. This is statistically significant, man. This is crazy. This is not good. Not good. We got that. And just recently, Venezuela protests large anti-Maduro march held in Caracas. Opposition supporters staging their largest rally in 2 years called for Mr. Maduro's removal. They blame him for Venezuela's economic crisis and accuse the Electoral Commission of delaying a referendum that could shorten his stay in power. So now he accuses the opposition of trying to stage a coup d'etat. This is crazy, right? Stay tuned. Very, 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 very alarming. Very alarming. Very alarming. Very alarming. Now, this is interesting. This is from the website called The Mirror. It was from Drudge. This was on Drudge. It wasn't directly linked to Drudge. Drudge Report is my favorite website, so everybody knows. I use it all the time, the Drudge Report. I think it's fabulous. But this is interesting. We're going to interject this now. As you know, Pop goes the Wiener, right? This week, Huma Abedin split off with Anthony Weiner. Their marriage is separated. They're separated. Now, in a declassified, unclassified U.S. Department of State email, Hillary to Huma, just knock on door to the bedroom if it's closed. I don't know what that means. But anyway, what I found kind of odd was Hillary Clinton's handle on clintonemail.com. H-Rod. I don't know. And she's got Huma over there. Huma says in the email, she replies, she says, sorry. Oh, Hillary Clinton says to Huma, sorry, I'm up now, so come when you're able. Just knock on the door to the bedroom if it's closed. Crazy. Did you also talk with Cheryl? The original message from Huma Abedin to Hillary Clinton: we just hung up, checked on you, but you were sleeping. If you want me to come give you download, I will be up for a while. Otherwise, can talk in AM. This is crazy. This is by the American Mirror.com. Interesting. Okay, I'm a black man and I support Donald Trump. This is a gentleman in the past. The future and stability of America are far more important than ego and party. C.J. Pearson is a teenage political activist and national chairman of Teens for Trump. Wow. He's deeply invested in the outcome of this election. This, according to this Time magazine article. Some have ridiculed him for supporting various candidates across the ideological spectrum. In a condescending blog last December, conservative host Eric Erickson accused this teenage kid of desperately seeking attention, questioned his intellectual capacity, and instructed him to shut up and go live life. This reaction makes one thing clear. Many people in the old guard do not have the slightest understanding of the political philosophies of this young man's generation. I believe that the future of America is post-party politics. And I hope that in the 10 to 20 years, the near constant issue of partisanship will be a distant memory. The shift is already beginning. 50% of millennials identify as political independents, and that number is up from 38% from 2004. So they're trending in the upward direction. The millennials identifying as political independents, and regardless of political party, they believe they have the capacity to lead. They're looking for the person who has the ability and capacity to lead. The future and stability of America is far more important than ego, according to this C.J. Pearson. This kid's 14 years old. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Homeland Eye's special declaration to take charge of elections. You got to watch this. You know, I'm very concerned what Obama is going to do, because I believe the polls are not telling us the truth, and quite frankly, she's spending all this money and they're neck and neck. Nah, Trump is winning. He's going to beat her handily. Will they let Trump take over? I don't believe it. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I'm cautiously optimistic about what the prior administration is going to do over here. I'm hoping, that Obama's got so much to worry about, he's just going to let it go. As long as he's not implicated, and Hillary Clinton takes, which I just don't see happening. That Hillary Clinton just goes down herself, So even before the FBI identified new cyber attacks on two separate state election boards, the Department of Homeland Security began considering declaring the election a critical infrastructure and giving it the same control over security it has over Wall Street and the electric power grid. This is nuts. The latest admission of attacks could speed up that effort, possibly including the up-and-coming presidential election, according to officials. We should carefully consider whether our election process is critical infrastructure, like the financial sector, like the power grid, according to Homeland Security Secretary Jen Johnson. There's a vital national interest in our election process, so I do think we need to consider whether it should be by the Homeland Security Department or other critical infrastructure. I don't know, man. Uh, it's a problem. IRS doesn't tell 1 million taxpayers that illegals stole their Social Security numbers. The IRS has discovered more than 1 million Americans whose Social Security numbers were stolen by illegal immigrants, but officials never bothered to tell the taxpayers themselves. The agency's Inspector General said, "It's a withering new report." And investigators first alerted the IRS to the problem 5 years ago, but it's still not fixed. And the Inspector General said a pilot program meant to test a solution was canceled and fell woefully short anyway. As a result, most taxpayers don't learn that their identities have been stolen and their Social Security files have been screwed up. As we revealed, Huma Abedin and Anthony Weiner have separated, and in addition, we found out through his text messages that Anthony Weiner revealed that he felt his marriage was busted from Jump Street. So that's why I guess he took those risks. But anyway, Facebook's news content staff was filled with liberals. Facebook's trending news sections, which was accused of censoring conservative news, was managed by a staff full of liberal employees. Why am I not shocked? Right? $1 billion lawsuit. Let me see. Facebook's facing a $1 billion lawsuit. Here we go. To add to this, Facebook is accused in a $1 billion suit of being a Hamas tool. Lawyers filed a $1 billion lawsuit against Facebook alleging it allowed the Palestinian militant Hamas group to use the platform to plot attacks that killed 4 Americans and wounded 1 in Israel, the West Bank, and Jerusalem. Facebook has knowingly provided material support and resources to Hamas in the form of Facebook's online social network platform and communication services. What's really interesting is I put a Google search in Facebook selling Facebook terrorists selling weapons. Yeah. Mirror.co UK. ISIS terrorists use Facebook to buy and sell weapons in secretive online arms bazaars. Yeah. So crazy. So he's filled with liberals, and they're concerned about unbelievable. Now here's something where I'm not shocked. White House, Obama shortens prison sentences of 111 convicts. U.S. President Barack Obama shortened the prison sentences of 111 convicts serving time for drug-related offenses in his second round of clemency grants this month. Obama has now granted a total of 673 commutations during his presidency, more than the number granted by 10 previous presidents combined. He seeks to reform the criminal justice system. Well, quite frankly, I'm going to do this. This is something that's on my mind for some time. I'm going to do this search, find this article, so it reminds me of something. And I'm going to go back there. I have to, because we got to keep it real. Now, back in a few weeks ago, I read this article. I read this article once or twice. Egypt's Mohamed Morsi accused of espionage and plotting Islamist takeover. Now, deposed Morsi and others will be tried on charges of espionage and aiding acts of terrorism. Egyptian state prosecutors said in the latest blow dealt by the military-backed authorities to former leader and his associates in the Muslim Brotherhood. after the coup, coup d'etat, as you know. In the statement, the Egypt's prosecutor accused Morsi and his top aides of sharing state secrets with Iran, with which Cairo has no diplomatic relations, and of spying on Egypt for the Palestinian militant group Hamas and Hezbollah. The charges alleged that Muslim Brotherhood, in collaboration with Sunni jihadists by Iran's Shiite government, plotted during Egypt's 2011 uprising to plunge the country into chaos and then seize and keep power. This charge sheet called it the biggest conspiracy in nation's history. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, there was a coup d'etat in Egypt. By the way, this is where I think it all unfolds for Obama. Egypt, Obama and Clinton. They're actually, I haven't mentioned it on the air, but they are actually in the complaint that the Egyptian prosecutor put before the Egyptian courts, that Obama and Hillary Clinton are accused of crimes against humanity and part of this Islamist takeover, this Muslim Brotherhood takeover. And funny, right? This occurred if I'm not mistaken, this occurred pre-Benghazi. The Egyptian was 2011. The coup d'etat on Gaddafi was in 2011 as well. And why I'm bringing it up, Obama released this clemency of 673 commutations, right? Gaddafi had that place like a drum. I mentioned this before on the air. Gaddafi had that place like a drum, Libya. All the jihadists were in the Tripoli prison. And through the jousting of his son, I guess, and I was understanding the U.S. Embassy could convince him to release these, it was like celebrating 40 plus years of control of Libya. He took coup d'etat in 69. And he released all these radical Islamists on the street. At the time, Libya had the most concentrated per capita infiltration of their population of radical Islamists in the entire North American Middle East region, and they probably still do. They were fighting. They were going to Iraq. They were going all over, these Libyan Islamic militants. And so he puts them on the street, and they're claiming whether it was a fake coup d'etat or a real coup d'etat. It's bizarre to me. So, like, it seems to me, Obama's putting criminals back on the streets. Nation of Islam. Islamist takeover? Hey, one sign to me of a stealth coup, a stealth Islamist takeover in this country, a systemic, methodical takeover, coup d'etat, a systemic, methodical coup d'etat on this country for the last 8 years. H.R. 5194 was put on the table, and the Congress tabled it to committee. They couldn't sign off on calling Muslim Brotherhood, after the Holy Land Foundation trial, total 246 Muslim Brotherhood front organizations, and the U.S. Congress couldn't bring themselves to start deporting, calling Muslim Brotherhood a foreign terrorist organization, and start deporting these Muslim Brotherhood operatives. That's scary. A systemic, slow coup d'etat, because we have a bigger infrastructure than Libya, obviously. We have a bigger infrastructure than Egypt. A coup d'etat, that's why I wanted Trump to go with the military, but I like Pence, but that's beside the point. Clinton on debating Trump. I'm running against someone who will say or do anything. And what's really troubling to me, when Hillary Clinton says stuff like this, nobody says anything. She says, again, with a straight face. She says this with a straight face. Clinton on debating Trump. I'm running against someone who will say or do anything. She's lied, purged herself, and did anything she's wanted. Now, that server, what we failed to call that server right now, that server is really, if we really want to get technical, that server is a State Department server. So she doesn't own that server because she's functioning, supposedly, was functioning as the state Secretary of State. I don't know how Obama, who's the president, allowed his Secretary of State to function in this capacity, but she took, that's basically the State Department server that she took, and she put it in the basement of her house. Those documents are the people's documents. And anybody, I don't care, this is no longer Democrat or Republican, this is Watergate 5.0. More than 24 pro-Trump, they call them flash mobs, popping up across Michigan this Tuesday. Ahead of Donald Trump's visit to court, black voters and Detroit supporters are holding more than 24 flash mobs across the state. In Detroit, they happened at 4 p.m. Tuesday, this past week, 8 Mile in Haggerty. I mean, they were all over Michigan. These are Trump supporters rallying to show Trump signs to commuters all over Oakland County. We're calling it a flash mob sign rally, and basically we're just gathering on really busy intersections and just showing people that we're out there, and that we're showing people that are out. Oh, I'm sorry. We're showing people that are out there that may not be as politically minded that, hey, we got an election coming up. So these are homemade signs for Trump, and it's a beautiful thing. This is great. Here's an interesting one. Why am I not shocked? The European Commission has concluded that Ireland granted undue tax benefits of up to $13 billion to Apple. This is illegal under European state aid rules because it allowed Apple to pay substantially less tax than any other businesses in Ireland. It's early in the morning. Must now recover the legal aid. Okay. Why am I not shocked? We know what's going on here. Media defend aggressive standards for covering Trump. Several media figures are actively lobbying their peers to challenge Donald Trump more aggressively when interviewing him or his surrogates, or even block Trump's campaign from gaining access to the press in some cases. Trump's campaign has benefited from billions of dollars worth of earned media and has put him in a position where he doesn't have to run campaign ads as much, yet he still competes. However, more and more media figures are mounting an effort to end Trump's free ride. On Sunday, Jorge Ramos, Univision, became the latest news figure to urge other journalists to take a more active approach to covering Trump. According to Ramos, he says, I think in this case, neutrality is really not an option. I think we have to take a stand. In this case, Donald Trump is a unique figure in American politics, and we haven't seen this in decades since probably Senator Joe McCarthy. I don't know, man. I think that's kind of, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I respect people's opinions, political affiliations, and to just, you can't stifle the people. Top destinations for Syrian refugees, Michigan and California. So we have more than a tenth of the 10,000 Syrians admitted this year, are headed. Okay. Most of the 1,036 new arrivals likely to settle in Detroit. And according to the article, close on Detroit's heels is California with 1,030. And Arizona, the two red states led by governors that flat out said they don't want Syrian refugees because they supposedly pose a security risk, are next on the list, having taken 766 and 735. And those states that follow is Pennsylvania 600, Illinois 569, 542, New York 532, and Florida. And so this is reported by NBC News. So this is what we got. This is something to look at. So we have the 136 going to Detroit, right? That's one. And then we got the 130 going to California. That's two. And then we got Pennsylvania, Illinois, Florida, New York. That's three. Okay, interesting. Thousands buried in at least 72 ISIS mass graves. Surrounded by smoke and flames, the sound of gunshots echoing around him. The young man crouched in the creek for hours, listening to the man and his family die. Crazy, man. This is horrific stuff. ISIS, I haven't yet blogged yet on ISIS because I believe I'm going to blog next week on Pakistan. And when I blog on Pakistan, after I blog on Pakistan, I'm going to, with the grace of God, I'm going to go live on Friday on the show about Pakistan. And then after that, I'm going to do an expose on ISIS. Going to Burning Man is a middle-aged cry for help. Next time you spy drug-blasted people bicycling through Nevada's Black Rock Desert wearing tutus and little else, don't be envious. They're inevitably at Burning Man, the annual pop-up festival which runs through the 28th through the 5th, and are probably miserable with themselves. So, I have friends that go, and they're not middle-aged, my friends. Crazy. Okay, so we got another article here. Humiliated Huma finally dumps sexting wiener. So what I found crazy was the photos that were found in the on Drudge Report, who I look at regularly. It's a great website, and they were wearing the same clothes. She's not wearing a ring anymore, Huma, and her and Hillary were wearing the same clothing. I find that kind of odd. Giuliani, I've saved more black lives than Beyonce ever could. Interesting. Former New York City Mayor Giuliani expressed displeasure with Beyonce's VMA performance in an interview, adding he saved more black lives than anyone at the awards show. Giuliani's appearance on Fox called Beyonce's performance a sham because it symbolized black people getting shot by police officers. Competing, so according to Giuliani, he says, you're asking the wrong person because Giuliani had 5 uncles who were police officers, 2 cousins one who died in the line of duty. Giuliani claiming that and stated that he ran the largest and best police department in the world, the New York City Police Department, and he saved more lives than any of those people you saw on stage by reducing crime and particularly homicide by 75%. Interesting. Interesting. David Chappelle, rare NC gig. Black Lives Matter is the worst slogan I've ever heard. I like David Chappelle. He's a great comedian, and he was in the cutting room this past week or so, and he claimed that Black Lives Matter. He claimed Black Lives Matter is a terrible slogan. It's like naming gum chewy. It's obvious. Wow. Okay. He much prefers Dwayne Wade's hashtag enough is enough. Interesting. Now, my position on this. I'm not, obviously, Dwayne Wade, condolences to Dwayne Wade and his family, what happened to his cousin, Melo, LeBron James, Chris Paul, Michael Jordan, and who's the other cat? I think I touched all of them. And Dave Chappelle, Dwayne Wade. I just feel that though they're well intended, they really don't give the situation the proper because Michael Jordan, who I happen to admire, he's a warrior like nobody. Gave like $2 million his community liaison group, and I think that's just another way of just throwing bad money, more bad money away. Because quite frankly, they should be standing in front of these public school systems over here, the public schools over here in New York, for example, and just shutting them down, calling for them to be shut down. It's the greatest unfortunate form of racism that quite frankly, when you're faking grades with these kids and a lot of these youngsters have kindergarten and kindergarten level reading and basic math, and they're getting 70s and 80s on Regents exams because they're allowed to go into the bathroom, into the stalls and cheat. And then the principal's being offended if somebody raises the issues, saying it's racism. I mean, it's crazy. In these public schools, it's 25 billion dollars. If they really want to make something happen, cats like Dwayne Wade, that's what they really should do. But I'm not going to tell them what to do. People are entitled to whatever. August, and that's my position. If you really want to get down to the hardcore nitty gritty and keep it real, they should be standing in front of these public schools and crying out for the racism, because that's racism. Because what you're really implying is that the non-whites, most of them are non-whites that go to the public schools. They can't read or write. They can't compete, right? Very bad. August, most violent month in Chicago in nearly 20 years. Wow. More than 400 people shot in Chicago this past month. At least 78 homicides, marking August as the most violent month in the city in almost 20 years. Chicago has recorded 489 homicides and more than 2,800 people shot so far this year, compared to 491 homicides and 2,900 people shot all of last year. So we're already in August, and it's almost eclipsing. It's crazy stuff. Trump plans to bring outreach to black audience in Detroit. Donald Trump is visiting Detroit next weekend, this is the 28th, so this is the next weekend after Labor Day, to make his first appearance before a predominantly African-American audience as his campaign makes a bid for support from black voters. Trump will visit the Great Faith Ministries on Saturday in Detroit, a predominantly black church located in the heart of the city. Pastor Mark Burns, a Trump supporter who arranged a meeting between the Republican nominee and church leader Bishop Wayne T. Jackson. Donald Trump will give an address to outline policies that will impact minorities and the disenfranchised in our country. According to Pastor Burns, I see as I've seen the heart and compassion Mr. Trump has for all Americans, which includes minority communities whose votes have been taken for granted for far too long. This is great stuff. Donald Trump is the man. I'm telling you. Donald Trump is the man. Latinos rally for Trump. A group called Latinos for Trump held its first rally in Orange County called Operation Taco Ball. Hispanics and African Americans joined other Trump supporters in voicing both their support for Republican nominee Trump and their opposition to the Democratic Party and its nominee Clinton. The Democrats think they can own and acquire Hispanics' loyalty for generations to come, according to Jorge Herrera, said into a mic at a podium in front of Anaheim City Hall, where dozens of Trump supporters had gathered for the rally. Who do they think they are? They will never own my loyalty. They will never own Hispanics' loyalty. It's just pandering. They don't care about us we see middle class income down, Hispanic wealth is down, African American wealth down. You look at the top Democratic cities, they're all down. It's all about talk, no action. The statistics prove they've done nothing for everybody. This is great. This is fabulous, man. This is fabulous. Iran deploys long-range missiles to Fordo nuclear site. Iranian students form a human chain during a protest to defend their country's nuclear program outside of Fordo conversion facility. These ladies here are basically, Tehran has deployed a recently delivered Russian-made long-range missile system to central Iran to protect its Fordo nuclear facility. Protecting nuclear facilities is paramount in all circumstances, according to the commander of Iran's air forces. Today, Iran's sky is one of the most secure in the region. Crazy stuff, man. You gotta watch Iran, I'm telling you. Iran's a problem. FBI says foreign hackers penetrated state election systems. The FBI uncovered evidence that foreign hackers penetrated 2 state election databases in recent weeks, prompting the Bureau to warn election officials across the country to take new steps to enhance the security of their computer systems, according to federal and state law enforcement officials. The FBI warning contained in a flash alert from FBI's Cyber Division, a copy of which was obtained by Yahoo News, comes amid heightened concerns among U.S. intelligence officials about the possibility of cyber intrusions, potentially by Russian state-sponsored hackers aimed at disrupting the November elections. Those concerns prompted Homeland Security Secretary Jen Johnson to convene a conference call with state officials on August 15th, in which he offered his department's help to make state voting systems more secure, including providing federal cyber security experts to scan for vulnerabilities. This Homeland Security is one big ruse. What the hell? Satanic worship on rise in America. Scary stuff. Now, I'm a keep it real kind of dude, Satanic worship on the rise in America. Well, according to this article, it's very concerning. In the USA, explicitly, satanic groups have begun drawing attention to themselves in the context of public governmental ceremonies. Just this month, a member of the so-called Satanic Temple was allowed to make an opening prayer to, I'm not even going to mention the name, at a local council meeting in Alaska. Assembly members stood around in a circle while the Satanists asked them to embrace the evil. Thoughtfully, meeting attendants were reminded that they didn't have to participate in the opening ritual. Wow. This is crazy stuff, man. And, I'm not into the commercialization of something as serious as this. I'm a man of God. I'm a man of Christ. And my thing just went off. But it's illuminating. This is very concerning. And that reminds me of what Julian Assange said. I just remembered. I'm just throwing it out there. Julian Assange reporters erecting a demon by protecting Hillary Clinton. WikiLeaks. Julian Assange reporters erecting a demon by protecting Hillary Clinton. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange on Wednesday accused the American liberal press of erecting a demon by shielding Hillary Clinton from criticism. It's crazy stuff, man. Listen to this. I found this kind of crazy. Not shocking, but crazy. Muslim Holy Day on September 11th coincidence stirs fears. Exclamation point, question mark. Every year, Muslim leaders around the world look to the moon to predict the date for one of the most holy holidays of the year, the Feast of Sacrifice. When Habib Hamid began about 2 months to plan for the holy day, he noticed a potentially fraught coincidence. Eid al-Adha could fall on September 11th. Some people might want to make something of that, according to Mr. Hamid, who recently was elected to the Islamic Center of Long Island, adding that he could easily foresee how some might misunderstand the festivities. Look, these Muslims are celebrating 9/11. The potential for the holiday to fall on the 15th anniversary of the terrorist attacks have stirred apprehension among Muslims in New York City and across the country at a time when violent attacks committed by radical Islamists, religion extremists, this is New York Times, have provoked inflammatory political rhetoric and helped fuel a surge. Wow, how could you? I mean, I'm reading this and it's just mind-boggling. In New York, the possibility of the holiday falling on September 11th has intensified security concerns and fears already reverberating through the community. And we're more concerned about the radical Islamists, the radical Islamist sympathizers, like Council of American Islamic Relations, than the Americans. That's why Donald Trump is, Louisiana flood victims to Trump. We knew you would be here for us. That's what I'm talking about. Donald Trump. He's there for everybody, all Americans. Trump was immediately greeted by Greenwell Springs Baptist Church. Donald Trump. Parish officials estimate that some 15,000 homes have been flooded in the region. Clinton cited an insider threat risk in Army training lesson. Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton was classified as an example of careless and disgruntled employees in an Army training presentation. U.S. military officials confirmed that they were teaching a lesson on securing classified materials and improving security. A spokesperson from the Army's Training and Doctrine Command said the slide was developed 18 months ago. As is common with Army training requirements, the local unit was given latitude to develop their own training products to accomplish the overall training objective. John Podesta's brother bagged $180,000 from Putin's uranium company. When Hillary Clinton's campaign newfound interest in Russian espionage, it's worth noting it was John Podesta's brother, Tony Podesta, who runs the firm that pocketed $180,000 from Uranium One, the Russian government's uranium company, to which then Secretary of State Clinton transferred 20% of U.S. uranium. Russia-controlled Uranium One retained the Podesta Group, run by the brother of Hillary Clinton's campaign chief, John Podesta. How convenient. Interesting. Charity watchdog, Clinton is a slush fund. Clinton finances is so messy that the nation's most influential charity watchdog put it on its watch list of problematic not-for-profits. The Clintons' family mega charity took in more than $140 million in grants and pledges in 2013, but spent just $9 million on direct aid. Interesting. Clinton campaign manager defends lack of press conferences. Just because Hillary Clinton hasn't held a press conference in more than 260 days doesn't mean she's dodging tough questions from the media. Really? Why should we? I guess we're just picking on her, right? Last time Clinton appeared before reporters to face impromptu questions, December 2015. While the real question here is whether Secretary of State Clinton has been taking questions from reporters, which she absolutely has. We went and counted, and she's been in more than 300 interviews with reporters this year alone. For liars, frauds. It's a problem we hear about every day. The national debt is costing you big time, but nobody thinks it directly affects them. The national debt, the U.S. owns more than 19.4 trillion in total public debt, more than combined economic output of China, Japan, and Germany. That means every American is on the hook for 60,000. Not to get in deep on this, out of the 19.4 trillion owned by the America, more than 6 trillion, 30% is owned by foreign countries. China and Japan are the two top U.S. debt holders. 1.2 treasury. That's from the Treasury Department. I don't know. Flash mobs for Trump to take place throughout Michigan. We discussed this. Great stuff. Now here's something that I find rather discerning. Iran terror sleeper cells are infiltrating South America, Argentine prosecutor says. Iran is infiltrating South America, setting up intelligent networks to carry out terrorist attacks in the region, according to Argentine prosecutor Alberto Nesman. Has been engaged for 20 years in the effort to charge a handful of former Iranian officials with masterminding the 1994 bombing of a Buenos Aires Jewish center. Nesman accused Moshin Rabbani, Iran's former cultural attaché in Buenos Aires, a suspect in the attack that killed 85 people, of working continually over the last 2 decades to develop an intelligence network in Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, Ghana, Suriname, Trinidad, and Tobago. Interesting. And just for the record, I'm going to look for these other articles. I'm going to add to this now. I'm going to get this other article. Hezbollah. Report, Iran's terror proxy, Hezbollah, registers as political party, Breitbart News. Shiite Iran's terror proxy, Hezbollah, the Party of God, has registered as an official political party in Peru's Abancay province, home to the largest Muslim community in the country, reveals an exclusive report by the Peruvian Latina news agency titled Hezbollah has arrived in Peru and announces the registration of its new political party. Let me try another one. One more, and I got it. Hezbollah, Islamic State presence in Latin America. The U.S. State Department has determined that Venezuela, which has refused to cooperate with the United States' anti-terrorism efforts in Latin America for nearly a decade, remains a permissive environment that promotes ideological and financial support for terrorist organizations, namely Iran's Lebanese proxy, Hezbollah. Although the primary threats to the Western Hemisphere stem from left-wing guerrillas known as the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC, the National Liberation Army, ELN, the Islamists, the Islamic extremist group, the Shiite Hezbollah, also spelled Hezbollah, Sunni Islamic State, ISIS, also maintain a presence across the region. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up, and what I'm finding rather a problem, is if you notice the way Iran moves. Iran goes to the countries where there's vulnerability, right? They've garnered contacts with Black Lives Matter that are conjuring up, quite frankly, false narratives about police brutality. And 99.9% of these unfortunate attacks were basically young African American people that just weren't complying with arrests. And people looking at the optics and not looking deep in. And so these people, and the numbers don't jive to what they're saying as far as the people that are getting killed, because most of them are the double of the number of more whites are getting killed by police than blacks, quite frankly, right? So but Iran moves where there's discontent because they're infiltrating through because this whole movement, this radicalism, this movement is basically socialism with a god. It's basically they're going to take care of you, and there's a god involved, and it's really crazy stuff, man. But it's something to watch. And this is 6,000 Muslims across southern border, all caught with one alarming item. We all know border security has been a pressing issue for a while now. And thank you, Donald Trump, going to Mexico. Thank you. And hey, listen, Mexico they border us. We're partners with them. They're our third largest trading partner. And we wanna negotiate. We want Donald Trump to negotiate on behalf of the Americans. And obviously, Donald Trump loves America, and he wants to get the best deal for America. And the Mexican president loves Mexico, and that's a beautiful thing, right? This is what it's all about. We want Donald Trump to negotiate for us. That's all. We're not looking to. We just want to protect our nation, like Mexico wants to protect their nation. I got no problem with Mexico. I love the Mexican people. I have Mexican friends, my Mexican brothers, and we're going to do the right thing. We want to make a deal, a win-win for everybody. Those are the best deals. So what's the item? Fake identification papers. But even more alarming than the numbers of these aliens from countries where radical Islam is prevalent was what they were all carrying: fake identification papers. Wow. Iraq stops would-be child bomber of ISIS. Wow. ISIS using the dark web as a weapon. Pentagon, no reason to believe ISIS leader injured ISIS member on Texas attack. Ain't seen nothing yet. Alabama student marries ISIS fighter. We have a terror recruiting problem in Minnesota, and we've been talking about this every other week. And it's a problem. It's a problem. I believe we have a stealth radical Islamic takeover here, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. Bill to ban former members of Congress from becoming lobbyists introduced. Democratic Senators, Michael Bennet of Colorado and Al Franken of Minnesota have introduced the Close of Revolving Door Act of 2012. The Close of Revolving Door, wow. Wow, so I picked this article out hoping it was something that they were doing that was good, but look what they're doing. Al Franken and Michael Benton, two Democrats. Why am I not shocked? That would ban former members of Congress from ever becoming lobbyists. Interesting. Bennett, this is, and Donald Trump. They claim to be, the mainstream media is pointing Donald Trump off as a psychopath, right? Really? Congressman Bennett Senator Bennett, what am I saying? I say Senator Bennett from Colorado, Iran deal is going well, and that is obvious that the billions in sanctions relief to the Islamic Republic of Iran could go to support terrorist activities. Bennett, supporter of the deal, gave an interview to the Denver Post to deliver the nuclear agreement a year later and how it's affecting his reelection campaign. He goes, I think this deal is doing well so far. Obviously, we have to be vigilant. Some people say, well, how can you trust Iran and do a deal with Iran? The whole point is that I don't trust Iran. I don't trust, really? So how's this a good deal? I don't understand. Black Men for Bernie founded to end democratic political slavery of minorities. Black Men for Bernie founded Bruce Carter's mission to restore black communities didn't end when Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders lost to Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party. He opposed Hillary Clinton and the Democratic establishment, and then because he knew they didn't represent the minority communities, he engaged in politics to fight for. After the leak of the internal DNC emails, Carter is convinced that the Democratic Party rigged the primary against Sanders and that Hillary's Democratic Party has no intention of changing the policies that led to the destruction of the communities he's working to improve. And he is now, it's my understanding, and Carter is preparing to take the experience and context his group built during the primary for Donald Trump in the battleground states across the country. Bruce Carter and Black Men for Bernie are at war with the Democratic establishment, who he says pander for votes, but haven't delivered meaningful results to minority communities for decades. Carter became politically active to support Sanders, and now he's supporting Trump. North Korea claims it is now able to nuke U.S. mainland. Wow. Global banks stuck at zero. Uniting plea for help from governments. Central bankers in charge of vast bulk of world's economy devolved deep into the weeds of money markets. I'm going to close off now, and because I got more to finish. But this is the Frankie Russo pre-show, yeah. And I'll see you in about 45 minutes. We're going live over here, 77 WABC, yeah. Remember, help America's team help the men and women of the United States Armed Forces fight post-traumatic stress disorder. FRusso14 at AOL.com, yeah.